This is Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. My name is Hough. I'm editor-in-chief of the Charlotte Post, joined by Cameron Williams and DeShawn Baker, who is head football coach over at Hough High School. It's not in Charlotte, but it's in Mecklenburg County. Close enough. And we appreciate you joining us on this Thursday night. And you're in the middle of preparation for a really big game next week, the biggest in Hough history, I think it's safe to say.
Right, right. We're just getting prepared, man. We're just trying to keep everything the same. It's kind of weird. I talked to a whole bunch of coaches, and a lot of them say, "Well, coach, I can't help because I've never had to have a bye before the state championship game." And so
Yeah.
we're just trying to keep everything as normal as possible. The way we do our bye weeks during the season, and so we're just trying to keep everything on the up and up, and let the kids have the same routine every time.
Well, Coach, just talk to me about what this week has looked like so far. You say you keep the same preparation, but what's the energy in the locker room right now? I know it's got to be high. I know the kids are obviously really excited about this, but just what does from the coaching staff, how are you keeping the guys level-headed? I know you asked you about this after the game last Friday, but just making sure these guys understand that, hey, yeah, this is a bye week, but we got to continue to practice and prepare because, we got a team in Millbrook coming up that's going to be really good.
I think that's been the toughest thing, man. Getting them to stay focused and practicing hard, and knowing that they don't have a game. That's the big thing. So we try to change some things up in practice a little bit. Add some competition stuff on top of game planning and being ready for our game come next week. So man, I think the energy level is great, man. I don't have any complaints about the energy level, how we doing things, man. I think the school morale is like really high right now. The kids are excited at the school. The teachers are excited at the school. The janitors are excited at the school. I think everybody's just genuinely happy for the kids and our coaching staff.
When you have no game to play and there's that off week, usually in the regular season, that's okay, that's part of the regular season. But this is different. This is for a state title. And when you talk about having that focus, you're talking about high school kids, and we all know what that's like because we've all been there. What do you have to do in your estimation? Because this is something new, because it's never happened before in state history. Are you finding yourself experimenting with some things in order to keep everybody ready to go for next week?
You know what? Like I said, we do some stuff like competition stuff to make sure we still, having our competitive edge and everything. But I think the kids at this point, man, they know I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna make sure the standard is the standard. I'm gonna make sure they're doing everything correctly and the way they go about doing the business. Um, man, we're not doing anything too much differently. But the kids know this is the big task. We've never been here before as a program. I've never been here before as a head coach or an assistant coach. And quite honestly, the 70 kids I have on varsity have never been here as players. So, everybody's excited. Everybody know what the mission is, and we're just trying to, we're gonna keep everything as normal as possible. And I don't have to do too much talking or trying to, persuade them to practice a certain way because they all want to win. And we're 13 and 0. They're 13 and 0. They're a really good team. And like I tell my kids, like, hey, they're not 13 and 0 for nothing. So forget what everybody's saying about the East and all that stuff. We got to go out and play Huff football.
And when you talk about Millbrook, Coach, I mean, in a lot of respects, this is a very mirror-like game. First, if I'm not mistaken, first championship appearance for those guys as well. Both teams 13 and 0, like you mentioned, and just doing some scouting. They got some really good guys on defense. One junior for them has like 15 sacks on the year. Their quarterback's got 24 passing touchdowns. So they're a well-rounded team. Just kind of not asking you to give away the game plan. And I know y'all are probably still game planning, but what scares you maybe about Millbrook, and what do you think you can exploit on that team?
They do a lot of moving on defense. They're not as big as some of the guys that we faced this year, but they're fast and they're quick, and so they do a lot of movement up front on the defense side of the ball. Offensively, they do quite a bit of RPOs, man. I think they do a really good job of the RPO game, and one he can throw it a little bit, and they have three really decent receivers, man. They're not bad offensively at all. They got a big offensive line. Um, but again, it's Huff versus Huff all the time, and we got to make sure that we're abiding by our standard and doing what we need to do. But they're a really good team, and again, they're 13-0, and they're 13-0 for a reason.
Yeah.
When you basically have 2 weeks of practice leading up to the game, does that mean that you have to do even more in terms of video study to try to game plan for Millbrook, or does that mean that you focus even more on Huff and what you do well in preparation?
Focus on Huff and what we do well. My preparation. One thing that we didn't want to do was like really like game plan and prep for them for 2 weeks straight. Because the kids start getting redundant to the kids, and they kind of know what we're going to practice and things like that. So of course we're doing stuff that benefits us as well as doing what we do best and working on things that we do well. So that's kind of how we approach the week.
You talked about their receiving core, and they got really, really talented receivers. Malachi Thomas, 8 receiving touchdowns on the year. Malachi Gilchrist with 6. Tayton Martin with another 6. So when you talk about your defense, and obviously everyone knows here in Mecklenburg County how good y'all's defense has been over the year, but question for you, Coach, where are you putting Samari? Who are you going to put Samari on?
We just Smart's gonna play. We're not gonna just leave him on one key. Like we're gonna let the chip fall where it may. So we're not gonna just have him following his kid around or anything like that. So he'll be wherever he's supposed to be at, wherever the ball is. That's where he's gonna be at.
I feel that.
When we last talked to you on the podcast, you were getting ready for the first big game of the season at the Keep Pounding Classic. And there was some really good back and forth in the banter and everything. And now you move forward 13 weeks, and another big game is out there. Talk a little bit about the grind of getting from that first week to now in terms of the journey itself. And like you said, this is brand new to everybody, but talk about that journey, 13 weeks of some teams were more competitive than others, not naming names, but you know who was who. And talk about making it from that first week to this week.
And you know what, man? God's really been on our side. This is probably the first time in years, that we've been in the playoffs and we've been, healthy, no injuries, and that's what really killed us in years past. We'll play now Independence and all them back to back, and we'll have a couple of injuries going into the Crimson game every year. We have somebody out that's important to the program. And this year we've kind of we've been relatively healthy in the season, just being in the weight room and making sure the kids are taking care of their body and doing all those things. So, eating right, making sure they're eating the right things and staying hydrated, things like that nature that we kind of never did before. And so the kids just really taking that into account, and they're doing a good job of taking care of their bodies and things like that. And our coaching staff has done a really good job of making sure we're in practice, that we're not beating up on each other in week 12 and 13, so we've done a really good job of that as well.
Well, Coach, I don't know how much you tune into the pod, but Herb has coined me as Quadruple P, the king of picks, parlays, props, and prognostication. Well, at the beginning of the year, I told him I thought this was Huff's year. I actually predicted y'all to go unbeaten. And so now that you're in the state championship, the only thing y'all can do is if y'all do win it, y'all will be unbeaten. And
Right.
last year, he took one of my P's away for prognostication because I picked Johnson C. Smith to go undefeated. Well, they ended up losing their last 2 games of the year. Well,
Right.
y'all haven't let me down so far this year. Will you please tell Herb to give me that fourth and final P back if y'all do come through and win next week?
Hey, if we get that win next week, he need the P back. He needs the
That's
P
right. That's right.
We'll give that all due consideration.
back.
But my last one for you, Coach, is just when you talk about being the kings of the 704, I know there's always the friendly banner and stuff that goes on, but when you look back at just your record as a coach against Mecklenburg County teams, and just, I mean, Y'all have really dominated the area. What has gone into or what finding the success, rather, I should say, in Mecklenburg County? Because there are a lot of really great teams in this area. When we talk Butler, Myers Park, West Charlotte, there's a lot of talent. But when Huff steps on the field, it seems like, I mean, they're always going to be the favorite.
Right. Well, I think, man, just taking on the personality of the coaches, man. I know everybody know Chachi from his antics and him being crazy and saying things. And, me and Chachi, like I said, we've been friends for over 20 years. And, I kind of, we kind of had the same persona when it comes to football. The attitude that we have, the way we handle our business about football. And we want our kids to take on that same attitude. And I think that's been a big change from the last 3 years since I've gotten back to Hough High School. It's just the way we go about it and the way our kids take on a task and the way we want to protect the house. And, we want to win every game, no matter how we win it. As long as we win it, we like to dominate every single game. But, some games, even this year, we had to, fight tooth and nail to win the game. And I think that's a big thing for this team this year, that we've had those up and down battles and we've overcome them during the season. And I think that's why I think it's our year this year, because we've been there. A lot of teams that we've playing that's really good hadn't really had those games where they've been down and had to overcome and come back and do those things. So I would just say, man, just taking on the attitude of our coaching staff, the way we go about our business, the way we handle it, and the standard that we, go by, and the togetherness. Like, our togetherness is crazy, man. Like, our kids, they fight, claw, everything Monday through Thursday, argue with each other. But when it comes Friday, it's one thing, and they're gonna have each other back no matter what.
Well, very good. And we're certainly appreciative of you taking the time to talk to us today on the podcast, and much success next week. I know it's going to be crazy for you because you've got all the other obligations that go along with championship week, and then you finally get to play a game as your reward. So we are very appreciative of you, and we are appreciative of our audience as well. Be sure to go to our website, thecharlottepost.com, and become a subscriber or a donor, or become a subscriber to our sports newsletters. Curated comes out every Thursday, and we include high schools, as long as high schools are doing stuff, and they always are, and in addition to the professional ranks and the collegiates. So for Cameron and Coach Baker, I'm Herb. Thanks for watching and listening.
Before we get off, Herb, I got one thing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Legacy 20 Productions. Shout out to Legacy 20 Productions. That's our film crew we had all year, man. They've done a phenomenal job. And if you're watching, if you go to the YouTube, they have followed us the whole season. We have a YouTube series called Inside the Pack. It's 13 episodes. Every episode is 8 to 13 minutes long, and it's following us throughout the season, one game at a time. The ups and downs, the battles, everything. They talk about it all. So if you got a chance, YouTube it, Inside the Pack. It's 13 episodes. Start at episode 1 and follow us along that journey.
Okay, well, there you go. Now you get the last word with your shameless plug, and these folks will get their shine. So thank you for everything, and best of success next week. And we'll see you later.
Thanks for having me.